obesity ultimately is leading to metabolic syndrome. It's costing the healthcare system a lot of money. Look at the cost burden. About $4,000 per adult with obesity. And then with metabolic syndrome, the cost even goes higher. So a lot of the diabetes, hypertension, arthritis that we're seeing is as a result of obesity. It's really hurting us. And obesity does not affect everybody the same way, right? Look at the differences in racial prevalence of obesity among non-Hispanic Hispanics and non-Hispanic. It tends to be a little bit more common among racial ethnic minority population. And we think there is a real reason for that. Okay? So even though you talk about 1 in 3 adults having obesity, it's almost half among blacks, about 40% among Latino, and it's still 1/3 among Caucasians. And this cartoon say, as for immigrants, simple. If they don't look like us, don't let them in. So if you don't look like Trump, you can't come in. All right. Then people say, what are the causes of obesity? There is not one single cause of obesity. Obesity is the most multifactorial disease in the modern day world. We know more, the more we know about it, the more complicated the idea of trying to identify a cause of obesity, the more difficult it becomes to get to identify causes. But when you look in the books, you will see lists of causes of obesity. It's an endless list. It's lengthening every single day. Eating more calories than body requires. Pregnancy, because people gain weight with childbirth, and then if there isn't adequate spacing between childbirth, that weight tends to accumulate. Environment, demanding work schedule, people can't cook anymore, so they eat out, and eating out is almost always associated with calorie excess. And then you have this easy access to inexpensive, high-calorie processed food. And then they say the gym membership is also to be blamed. High cost of gym membership. I put this here not because I personally is there. It contributes, but remember that we didn't always have gyms. I mean, we didn't always have, nobody did exercise. All we did was play, right? It was the way we played that is different, right? We used to play, when I was growing up, you play soccer with anything. An empty bottle, empty can, rags rolled together. We played soccer with anything, right? And the girls did this thing, they always do that and throw that thing and walk around. These days, what are they playing? They're playing Instagram. So, you know, so I mean, do we really need gym membership to control obesity? You know what I mean? And then emotional and psychological factors, stress, depression, low self-esteem. Yeah, they contribute, but then I think honestly we are obese because we don't know how to live anymore. We have forgotten how to live. We cause ourselves stress and pain, whether we like to know it or not. We are responsible for everything. When you hurt somebody physically, psychologically, does not matter. You've injured them in ways, more ways sometimes than we tend to realize. There are certain medical conditions, yes, we can't help that. Lack of sleep, imbalance of hormones that control appetite, lack of sleep. That is why I hate when we do anything that make you guys lose sleep. PA school is tougher than medical school. And whatever the program can Because even with all that we do to make it easy, it is still very difficult, you know. So when there is a program that put extra burdens on the students, I think it's because many people don't even realize how rigorous it is. And what is interesting is like, you know, it's like CPAs, right? They went to accounting school. They know how difficult it is, right? Then once they get their CPA, they now set the CPA exam, make it impossible for others to pass. You know, that is a very crazy thing. And I'm amazed that sometimes the people that I have seen that think that PA school needs to be more rigorous, there needs to be more PAs. I'm like, you went through the program, you saw what the hell you went through? Why you want to make it harder? You know, just 2018, they changed the exam, right? Make it more difficult. Raise the bar, right? And I think that is a good thing. You need to know some things, but that put the burden of us streamlining the curriculum to make sure that we teach them what they need to know, period. They can do anything else on their own afterwards, but we have to educate PAs to pass the PA board and be the best clinician they can be. You know, when you start doing stuff that you may not know, making people lose sleep, you are affecting them in ways that is profound that you may not even be aware of. Medications, of course there are medications, the lack of exercise. It's only now that we have to exercise because we didn't used to have to exercise. Exercise was part of how we lived, right? When we used to hunt and gather, you had to move to eat. You see, now you have to move your feet and eat. That was how we lived. If you didn't move your feet, you couldn't eat because you had to go get the food. But now we have to really put a special program together to have people move their feet and eat. You see how far we have come? So it turns out that, well, there's this geneticist. Some physicians don't believe this, but I think the guy is right. You know, we came from this hunter-gatherers person, right? I don't believe in evolution, okay? But let's assume for a minute that we were not always as sophisticated as we have become, right? So we came from a place where we dropped from the universe on this planet and there was nothing. This desk, these devices they were somehow hidden in the crust, in the earth crust. And we had to figure out how to make them out of the earth crust, right? But we had to be there. And we did everything we had to do to survive. So we came from this hunter-gatherer society. And we had a gene complement. You know, it used to be that, we used to think that once you're born with a specific set of genes, those genes determine whatever happens to you in life. And you have no control over your genes. Well, not so. We know now that the way your genes are expressed is influenced by the environment. Okay? What is even more important is that the environment can also induce changes in your genes that you can pass on to your offspring. Without changing your genetic composition, the environment can modify the way those genes are expressed. And that modification is not just going to apply to you, it's going to apply to every generation of yours after that. So we have those changes are what we call epigenetic changes. They don't change the genes, but they alter the way the genes are expressed, right? So those are called epigenetic changes, and believe it or not, now we know that stress can actually alter your gene. And that alteration, you will pass it on to your children, and they will pass it on to their children. So this guy said that there is a group of genes, they're called tryptogens, or obesity genes. They were always with us. They were the reason we survived. these tryptogens, they are responsible for metabolic alterations that allow humans, the early humans, to store calories efficiently. Because the early humans lived in a time when there were seasons of abundance and seasons of scarcity. You have to look, if the Indians did not teach Columbus and his group how to farm in this land, they would not have survived. Because the schedule was so tight in this part of the world. You have to plant at the right time so you can have a harvest. If you miss that planting season, you're going to starve. Right? So food came in season. There are season of feasting and there is season of fasting. Your ability to survive in those environments depended on your ability to not only process food efficiently, but also to store it adequately, so that when the times of scarcity comes, you now use what you stored, right? And survive the scarce period. And then when you get surplus again, you store it up. If you couldn't do that, if you couldn't store food, you didn't survive. So if your genes were such that you always stayed slim, regardless what you ate, you didn't make it in the family, right? You just died off. The only people that survived were those who could store food, gain weight when there is surplus, and then lose it when there is scarcity. If you couldn't do that, you didn't survive. So we came with these tryptogens. The reason many of our ancestors survived was because they had these tryptogens, right? Good. So think about it, for instance. I was born in St. Thomas, right? I grew up in Nigeria, right? And my mom's environment was nutrient poor, maternal environment, because it was in the city in Africa somewhere, right? Then I was programmed in my mother's womb that you're going to go out into the world and you're going to be born in an area that is not as friendly, right? So my mother's internal environment modified my genes, preparing me to grow up in Nigeria and live in Nigeria, right? So I was programmed. Those changes did not alter my genes. I still had the genes from my parents, but the way it was going to be expressed, some were going to be turned on, some were going to be turned off. The genes were there, but some of them were going to be turned on, some were going to be turned off, and that programming, I was born. And truthfully, I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria, right? I was in Nigeria from the time I was like one year old, right? So it was a very tough environment. I grew up there. My tryptogens helped, right? It was a scarce environment. I managed my calories very well, right? When I left medical school, I was 6'2", 180 pounds. Then I moved to the United States. With my tryptogens. And I moved to the United States. And believe it or not, in 10 years, I went from 180 pounds to 280 pounds. I thought KFC was the next thing I thought. And I didn't even register how I was gaining this weight until I started snoring, falling asleep everywhere. I'm like, this can't happen. For heaven's sake, hey doctor, you got people to lose weight, you can't lose the weight, right? But you see how that change now increased. People can, and I just use this story to tell you why immigrant populations are particularly vulnerable to obesity when they relocate. Okay? So you have these children that are now born, they have these tryptogens. right? And then they're born into this environment, and their parents, when I was growing up, you drank soda twice a year, during Christmas and New Year. That's it. Or when in between the year you went to your friend's birthday. So soda was not part of your meal, but now there are kids that are being raised, they don't drink water.
Yeah.
They drink only soda. And somehow we think that is okay. It's not. So you see all these maternal exposures, suboptimal nutrition, substance abuse, smoking, stress, environmental exposure, you're programming the kid, and then the kid gets born, and the reality is that you prepare the kid for something that is not real. Because now, this is the modern food environment. You don't need to go very far. So you see, sometimes you have a very healthy woman, a healthy man, they raise these kids, they feed the kid the right thing at home, and then they give the kid some money to put in her pocket. And then on her way to and from school, she's standing in front of these trucks and buying everything she shouldn't be buying, because you just gave her money, right? And you didn't tell her what to do with the money, right? So this is the modern food environment, and this food you see here, they are calorie bombs. This is just an example. This is the amount of calorie per dollar. Okay? Big Mac.
I know.
For $1, you get 142 calories.
You know,
Yes.
the McChicken is $1 and it's 470 calories.
No, I'm telling you, you buy it for $3.79.
No, I'm just saying, like, the McChicken is just like more calories per dollar.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you see, calorie has become very cheap to acquire. But see how difficult it is to get rid of. In order for you to get rid of 200 calories per hour, you really have to be a housewife, or you have to spend like 1 hour a day doing nothing but cooking and cleaning. You have to dance, like vigorous dance, for an hour to lose 250 calories. You have to walk for an hour to lose 350 calories. You can get that in just large fries. You have to cycle for an hour to lose 500 calories. You have to swim for an hour to lose up to 500. And you have to jog for an hour to lose about 1,000 calories. Do you see the imbalance? Calories are so cheap, easy to acquire, but very hard to expend. And unfortunately, that is how fat tissue is formed. When you take in more calories than you need, you form fat. The body stores it, especially if you have those tryptogens. Because the tryptogens operate on the assumption that there is a famine coming. So they will save every calorie you're putting in, waiting for this famine to come. And guess what? Whenever you take in more than 3,500 calories in excess, you gain a pound. That is just what it is. You know what is amazing? What is amazing is that whether you gain it or you lose it, it works exactly the same way. If I start feeding you something that will give you extra 500 calories every day, you will gain a pound every week. If I also sit with you and go through your diet, and somehow I'm able to modify it and create a 500 calorie deficit every day, you will lose a pound every week. The body is a perfect machine when it comes to calorie management. Of course, it's different if you have hypothyroidism or you're living under severe stress. Those can modify it a little bit. But everything else being equal, this is exactly how it works. 3,500 calories change will cause 1 pound in body fat. You know, it would have been a lot easier if that was all there is to it. If you just get fat and that's it. Because being fat is not necessarily a disease. It is the fact that we used to think that we didn't used to worry about weight, honestly. As a matter of fact, do you know that in some cultures, especially not just in Africa but all over the world, women that are married skinny are sent away to a place called fattening room, right? Where they are fed a lot of fat to make them fat. Because the idea was that the ideal woman was a big woman.
Social class.
Right? Because we thought that fat was just good, you know. I guess we're not gonna have some meat, right? It was like that. But as we learn more about fat, we start realizing that no, it's not just fat. Adipose tissue is a metabolically active tissue. It's an endocrine organ. It's not just inactive fat. No, it's an active organ. The adipocyte release into your system adiponectin. Adiponectin is anti-inflammatory. That's a good thing. Adiponectin releases nitric oxide. That's a good thing. Adiponectin sensitizes your body to insulin. That is a good thing. But that's about it. Everything else fat does in the body is evil. It releases angiotensinogen. You know what that does, right? Causes vasoconstriction. Causes sympathetic overactivity. Is that good for you? Of course not. It releases leptin. Look at what leptin does. As if the sympathetic overactivity you get with angiotensinogen is not enough. Leptin comes and does more of that. Sympathetic overactivity causes ventricular hypertrophy. So you don't need to have hypertension to have LVH. All you need to do is be overweight. It causes platelet aggregation. Leptin causes platelet aggregation. What does that predispose you to? Clot formation, right? Look at osteopontin, activating macrophages. Resistin, activating macrophages, releasing all these terrible cytokines. These are substances that just promote inflammation. Before it takes a bug, a virus, a bacteria, a fungus, whatever, to set your body in inflammation. Now, we know that fat can set you on fire. Because inflammation is a metabolic fire. And you know, we didn't know this. This information did not come from scientists. It came from life insurance people. This MetLife people, this Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, as early as 1943, they found out that when they insure people, the people that cost them money are the overweight people. Right? So they now came up with insurance table. They have a table for small frame, medium frame, and large frame. So they will now use it to assess your risk before they take you on. Right? It was from these life insurance tables that we came up with. We took it over. And started saying, no, we can improve on that. Now came up with body mass index. Okay? Computing appropriate weight for heights. Right? And we call it body mass index. We now have a body mass index table that we use to actually define what your normal BMI should look like. Right? And the formula is there. You can use weight in pounds. pounds or weight in kilograms, you don't need to memorize that. You just need to know about it because we have all kind of tables out there now that will allow you to compute somebody's body mass index depending on their height, right? You know, when you start getting weight, some people have, okay, let me, when you gain weight, first you gain weight in your limbs. When you begin to gain weight in your trunk, you're gaining too much weight. You can gain weight pretty much anywhere else, but once you begin to gather fat in your trunk, you are gaining too much weight. Because we realize that your body mass index tells you what your ideal weight should be, but that is not the end of the story. There is more to it. Not only shouldn't you gain too much weight, but it also matters where you're gaining the weight. If you are gaining the weight in your stomach, even if your BMI is normal, but you have more of your weight around your trunk, you carry an independent risk. So what I'm trying to say to you is, fat deposition is important. Equally and independently important is the fat distribution. So we monitor that. In men, your trunk shouldn't be, and the way you measure it is usually around the navel, right? It shouldn't be more than 40 inches or 102 centimeters in men, 35 inches or 88 in women. That is what it should look like. Once you exceed this and you do the, what is this? Is it a CT scan or MRI? Okay. Once you do the abdominal CT scan and you begin to see fat in the abdominal cavity, that's not a good thing. It is okay for fat to be here. It is very bad for fat to be in here. Because generally what that means is that, you see, every human being, every child, every person has a set number of adipocytes. Adipocytes are basically empty cells. They are these huge cells. The nucleus is moved to the side and a lot of space. They are your storage units for fat. So whenever you have excess calories, it's converted into fat and stored in the adipocytes. You only have so many of them. When you're filled completely, all your adipocytes are full, that is when you start accumulating fat in organs. That is, and the liver is not supposed to store fat. When all your adipocytes are filled and you begin to store fat in the liver, we call it fatty liver. Because now the liver does not have room to do what it needs to do because there is all this fat all over the place and it cannot synthesize hormones, break them down, and liver enzymes begin to go up. That's a problem. Okay? That happens usually when you have exceeded your fat storage limits. All of that interferences with metabolism, with visceral adiposity, is what we call metabolic syndrome. And from everything I've told you now, you could see that in order for you to have this visceral adiposity and its associated metabolic problems, you have to have some genetic predisposition. You have 3 genes, and you have to have environmental precipitation. Okay? And see what happens with, once you begin to gather fat in your trunk, whether you're a man or a woman, you begin to get adipocyte hypertrophy, adipocyte dysfunction, impaired fatty acid storage, increased circulating free fatty acid. you get visceral adiposity. All of this together will give you problem. This was the first time we realized that abdominal obesity increases your risk for all-cause cardiovascular and cancer mortality. We used to think that, oh, obesity just increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes. No. Now we know that all cancers, all cardiovascular disease, even musculoskeletal diseases like arthritis, they are all related to obesity. Okay? And see what happened to all-cause mortality with abdominal obesity. Are you following what I'm saying here? The point of this slide is to tell you that not only is your weight important, the way you carry your fat is important. You don't want to carry fat in your trunk. So how do we diagnose obesity? Diagnosis is based on BMI. Normal BMI is between 18 and 24. Once it's over 24, you say you're overweight. That is 25 and overweight. 30 and over, you are really obese now. And then over 35, you have class 2 obesity. Then over 40, you have class 3 obesity. I did a study with enhanced data a few years ago where I showed that among the elderly, you begin to get sick from your weight once your BMI goes above 40, 35. And that is why above BMI of 35, we say we have a morbid obesity. That is obesity that you will get sick from. So even though they say it's stage 2, the truth is, at that point, that's when you start getting sick. You don't get sick when your BMI is 33, 34. Once you hit 35, especially you're over the age of 60, and your BMI is more than 35, you are going to get sick from that weight if you don't lose it. Okay? Again, I was telling you that it matters where you store your fat. So that distribution is what we call the apple versus pear, right? If you carry your, well, for the women, you carry your weight around your hips, it's a good place to carry your weight. If you carry your weight around your trunk, that is not a good thing. And the way you figure this out is you measure the abdominal circumference at the level and at the widest point of the hip. And that ratio is what we call the waist-hip ratio. That is how clinically we decide if somebody has apple type or pear type obesity. Increased waist circumference or apple type obesity confers an independent risk for morbidity and mortality and may compromise the reduced risk of mortality associated with waist-to-hip ratio. Now, just because apple type, pear type body distribution is good does not mean you can look like this. If you look like this, you may not die of diabetes, but you will destroy your joints. I mean, I have patients, believe you me, 1 out of every African American female in my patient is like this. They look, when they walk, when you see them in the waiting room, you'll be like, wow, I'm sure she has diabetes, hypertension. They have the best blood sugar, the best blood pressure, the best lipid profile. What are they seeing me for? They're seeing me for arthritis. Right? So just because we talked about these body types being preferred, he has a limit. You know? So it's extremely important that, and women that look like this generally don't have the incentive to lose weight. because generally speaking, black males like their women to look like that. So, one time,
Not I.
you know, one time I had a conversation with my wife, right? She started getting, I don't know, it was these people, I don't know what they call themselves, but she started doing this on her phone. She's got these aerobic instructions, right? She started jumping and doing all this kind of stuff in the house for about an hour, right? Sweating and everything. I'm like, baby, you're losing your butt. I'm like, what? Is it true? Do you know that I made that comment? I was kidding, right? But she took me very seriously. And she dropped that thing and started doing other forms of exercise, focusing on other parts of her body.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. You know, I always knew that women are very sensitive to comments about their bodies and their ability to cook if they are African origin. You know, among Africans, being able to cook is supposed to come with you as a woman.
It's important.
So when you don't have it, you're missing something. In fact, one of my nieces was sent back home after she got married to live with her mother for 6 months to learn how to cook before she was allowed back to her husband's home. So it's a big deal. Okay, so it is so important that when you're talking about weight, you really need to understand what matters to people. Do you know that the reason some African American women don't exercise is because they can't afford to sweat? They just spend around $60 to fix their hair, right? And then they sweat, and that messes that up. That is one cost they can afford. It is extremely important to kind of listen, to just allow them create a free space, and people will express themselves in ways you've not heard before. You know, but if you keep just hitting them on the head about their weight without caring what they're going through, what their preferences are, they will just tune you out. And once they tune you out because you don't get it, they will tune you out for good on everything else, including pap smear and mammogram. One time I was talking to my diabetic patient. I'm like, I need you to lose some weight. And he listened to me and he started doing exercise and trying to lose weight, right? Then he got to BMI of 36. I'm like, wow, you're doing really good. We just need to lose 10 more pounds. And you know what he said to me? He said, no, Dr. Martins, I can't lose any more weight. I live in a very bad neighborhood. I'm like, what has your weight got to do with your neighborhood? He said, oh no, I need to look like this in my neighborhood. It's true. Most of the time, when I walk through some places, I'm not afraid. Because people are afraid of me. Right? I'm the king. Right? But believe you me, if I'm a little smaller and vulnerable, you will see that your people will come to pick on you for no reason. Take a good look. When you go to the hood, the big guys are not hypervigilant. They rule that territory. It's the small guy that has to look all the time because somebody's going to mess with him. Because it just looks like that. So all these things matter when you're talking to patients. I've advised my patients to move because even in the hood, there are oases. Or sometimes all it takes is a couple of blocks away and the difference in mortality is remarkable. It does not matter where you look at it, whether in Cook County, Chicago, whether in Harlem, or whether in South LA, it does not matter. You don't have to leave the neighborhood. Somewhere in that neighborhood are these oases. And sometimes you just have to tell the patient I need you to look for an apartment in this zip code, because the police track it all the time and the data is available, right? You really have to do all these things if you truly want to help people live. Because what is the point if they die of gunshot wound to the head with normal blood pressure and A1C of 7? Does that matter? The point is to help people live, not die with normal blood sugar. What have I gained if my patients still die anyway of gunshot wounds? Even though they have normal blood pressure and blood sugar the last time I saw them, does that help me in any way? Everything was a waste. My time, to insurance, everybody's time was wasted in that effort. So you see, this is extremely important when you're talking about obesity among racial ethnic minorities. How do you diagnose metabolic syndrome? And you must look for metabolic syndrome whenever you see truncal obesity or abdominal obesity. I saw this, I think it was helpful. I already told you about dyslipidemia. Dyslipidemia means abnormal lipids. Generally, it is defined as increased triglyceride and low HDL. That is what dyslipidemia is. And then you have this insulin resistance that is usually marked by elevated fasting blood sugar, and then obesity specifically is the truncal obesity, and then blood pressure that is above the optimal. And those is what defines metabolic syndrome according to the NCP-ATP3. I already talked to you about this, but there's a little bit more information on exactly why abdominal obesity is really, really bad. The pathophysiology of metabolic syndrome is driven by 3 chemicals: angiotensin 2, free fatty acids, and glucose. I have a little bit of a synopsis here of what this actually represents. Abdominal adipose tissue releases excess angiotensin 2, free fatty acid, and cytokines into the circulation. Those 3 substances. Now the angiotensin 2 induces vasoconstriction and causes blood pressure to rise. That's where you get the blood pressure from. The free fatty acid inhibits the uptake of glucose by muscles and causes blood glucose to rise. Right? Together, angiotensin 2 and free fatty acid, they impair the sensitivity of pancreas to elevated blood glucose, thereby inducing the paradoxical increase in insulin and fasting glucose that we now call insulin resistance. Then you have cytokines such as tumor necrosis factor, interleukins that provoke inflammatory reactions that limit the efficacy of circulating insulin and may contribute to blood pressure elevation. The increase in blood glucose and free fatty acid levels promote hepatic triglyceride synthesis and alter lipoprotein metabolism and profile, as you can see it. At the end of the day, you end up with insulin resistance, blood pressure, and this dyslipidemia. This is bad. This is when you want to call your patient and sit them down that you're about to get really sick. I don't want you to get really sick. We need to do something now. Many times, if you communicate it the right way, you will get at least 2/3 of the patient to turn around. I do it all the time. Blood pressure control in my practice is about 80 to 90%. It might take me some time. And less than half of in fact, 2/3 of the patients in my practice don't smoke. Half of them stop smoking after about 2-3 years of being under my care. I don't force them. I just tell them, "Oh, nice to see you. You're taking this medicine. You're taking all these trips to the pharmacy. That's a good thing you're doing. But I wish you would stop smoking, because you see what you're doing. Everything you're doing, exercise, healthy eating, you're reducing your risk for cardiovascular events by 30%. Every time you smoke, you just increase it by 30%. So it's like a zero-sum game. We are wasting a lot of time here." When you talk to people like that, you will connect with them very differently. And let me tell you something. You're going to be a clinic. They will call you healthcare provider. show in everything you do, and you're really not doing your job. You're not earning that income. And there are other forces in nature that will make sure that you lose it. Why do we worry about obesity? Look at all the complications it gets, right? Raised intracranial pressure, what is that called? Raised intracranial pressure that you get with obesity, what is that called? Pseudotumor cerebral, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cerebrovascular disease, obstructive sleep apnea, ischemic heart disease, chest wall restriction. What would I give you? What type of respiratory failure would you get with chest wall restriction? Wendy? What type of respiratory failure? Type 1 or type 2? Type 2, right? The one with the elevated CO2, right? Okay. Obesity, hyperventilation, atelectasis. If you don't watch obesity, you can get so much fat on yourself that when you lay down to sleep, the weight will crush your chest. I mean, and that's what we call this obesity, hyperventilation. And when you cannot take deep breath, then you lose aeration at the lung bases. And once you lose aeration, the lung base will collapse. That's just what it is. Cholelithiasis, pancreatitis, glomerulosclerosis, infertility, venous stasis, phlebitis, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, all kind of cancers, anxiety, depression. Anxiety because now you begin to doubt yourself as a woman, right? Depression because your husband leaves, right? Osteoarthritis, anytime you're over the age of 40, that is when your body starts breaking down. So ideally, I tell my patients, once you're over the age of 40, especially 50, you should weigh less every single year. Even if it is 1 pound, weigh less if you're overweight, because your joints are not going to get stronger after 50. Your body is not going to get stronger. It's more likely going to get weaker, or you're going to, even with testosterone replacement and estrogen replacement, you will still lose things. You're going to age. It's the way we go. It's the human we get used to it. This fountain of youth, we may never find. So let's deal with it now, right? Once you're over 50, you shouldn't be doing some things anymore. And you should be weighing less. That's the only way you're going to keep your health. If you keep gaining weight over 50, you're cruising for bruising, and believe me, you're going to get hurt. Look at the acute management, transport and positioning. Did you hear that woman that got so sick and became bedridden, and all she was doing was eating? She gained so much weight, they had to take down the door to get her out when she got paramedics. She went in the room herself, and she hadn't been out in so long that by the time she got in trouble and they needed paramedics to take her out, they had to call the fire department to take down the door so she can come out. Why would you do that to yourself? You know, like I told you, was it yesterday? Do the right thing when you can. If you keep ignoring doing the right thing, you will lose your ability to do it in time. Just look around you. Look, I've been in medicine long enough. I've lived in life long enough, and there is nothing new here. The problems that we're dealing with today, they dealt with it when we're hunters and gatherers. Very few problems. As human beings, we only need to follow some basic rules, and we'll be fine. When we start thinking technology, medications allow you to break the rules, you get into trouble because they don't always help you. Post-procedural difficulties, vascular access, tracheal intubation, neural blockade, monitoring problems, difficult airway maintenance, impaired ventilation, disordered gas exchange, altered pharmacokinetics. There are some medications that are lipophilic. The dosage is calculated based on normal body fat percentage. If you have way more than an average person, you will lose a lot of your medicine into your fat stores. You will lose them from your your circulation. You might take the medicine, but you're not going to get the benefit because it's not where it needs to be. So how do we manage obesity? We're supposed to stop at 11, right?
Yes.
Okay. How do you manage obesity? Exactly how you got it, right? Increase calorie output, decrease calorie intake, and you will lose fat. And for every 3,500 calorie change, you will lose a pound. It is just what it is. It is what it is. I have tried this so many times, and I know it. That is exactly how it works. Look, in Lent, during that period that Christians fast, when I participate in it, and I eat only fruits and vegetables for the 40 days at sunset, after 40 days, I lose 20 pounds. Then, before Christmas, I gain it right back. Right? But that is the way it works. Now, so we said in order for you to manage obesity, you have to increase calorie output and you have to decrease calorie intake. Now, in order for you to decrease calorie intake, you need to find out how much calorie people need. Okay? Because the amount of calories that you really need depends on the number of factors. Your age. Calorie requirement decreases with increasing age. The older you get, the less calories you need. Okay? Gender. Calorie requirement is higher in males than in females. Males have a higher basal metabolic rate. Women's metabolism is like sedan. The male's metabolism is like SUV. Right? You put full tank in both of them, they will run out at different times, right? Because one just has a higher slow running than the other. Level of activity. Calorie requirement increases with increasing level of activity. Move your feet and eat. Right? And then what else do you have going on? Neuroendocrine disorders, cardiorespiratory disorders, gastrointestinal diseases, chronic infection, cancers. They will affect your calorie requirements. Okay? And there are all kinds of devices online that you can use to compute what people's basal metabolic rate is and what their calorie need should be. Okay? And I just giving you some examples. They're all over the place. And you should carry it in your, everybody carries something on their phone these days to help them with patient care. You should carry those things. You should familiarize yourself with those devices that help you determine people's basal metabolic rate and what their calorie need might be. Okay? Now, when you come to, you've decided now what the calorie intake is going to be. How the calories should be distributed in food also differs depending on what the goal is. Carbohydrates give you 4 cal per gram. Protein gives you exactly the same amount per gram. Fat gives you 9. Alcohol gives you 7. People don't appreciate the calorie content of alcohol. Alcohol carries calories. Okay. If you're planning to lose weight, recommendation is that 35 to 50% of your intake should be about protein, and about 25 to 45 should be carbs, and 20 to 35 should be fat. Okay? If that is what you want to lose weight. You just want to maintain your weight. About half of what you eat should be about carb, about a quarter protein, another quarter fat. If your goal is to gain muscle, you're exercising and doing all kind of stuff, you want to muscle gain, again, you increase your protein intake. Okay. Now, when we talk about carbohydrates, people always say, and it's so confusing now because there are kind of junk online trying to tell the difference between carbs and sugars and all that. Look, in chemistry we know that sweet, they are absorbed rapidly, they are more available, and they give you less bulk per calorie. Okay? Whereas complex carbohydrates tend to be mostly vegetables, they are raw and flat, they tend to be absorbed slowly, they are less available, and they give you more bulk per calorie. So if somebody eats a lot at a meal, then you want them to eat more complex carbohydrates. If they eat little at a time, then you want them to eat more simple carbohydrates. You have to take into consideration all these things. So when you tell your patients most of the time, I need you to increase your intake of fruits and vegetables, you know what they hear? Intake of fruits. Because think about it. Simple carbohydrates like fruits, you don't need to prepare them. You don't need to season them. Just take the banana and put it in the food and you're gone, right? All these things here, apart from the carrots, you have to cook it, season it, steam it, whatever you have to do. It's not easy. And these are tasteless. So these are more difficult. So without any conscious effort, if you just tell people to increase fruits and vegetable intake, everybody will eat fruits. And that was exactly what happened to one of my patients. I had a good conversation with him. Told him I need you to increase your fruits and vegetable intake. He was diabetic. And I told him what simple carbohydrates were and what complex carbohydrates were. Not the first time, I just told him increase your fruits and vegetable intake. That's what I said. The guy left me, came back 6 months later. A1C went from 9 to 12. I'm like, what are you doing? Did you do what I said? He said, yes, I did. I've been eating fruits and vegetables every single day. I'm like, when was the last time you ate fruits and vegetables? He said, yesterday. He said, tell me the fruits and vegetables you ate. He said, grapes. I'm like, what else? No, just grapes yesterday. I said, okay. How about the day before? Berries. What else? No, that's it. How much grapes? Say a bowl. What are you doing? There is no difference between a banana and a can of soda for you, because we're talking calories. Whether you eat one banana or you drink a can of Coke, it does not matter. They will both hurt you the same way. One is natural, the rest is artificial, but they both have calories. Patients don't understand that. You have to help them understand that. Because the guy thought he was doing exactly what I said. And it was because of this experience that I opened the Life Center at that Weingart YMCA on Century and Vermont, where we just teach patients how to make this stuff more tasty so you can eat it. You know, life is lifestyle intervention and food education. So I work with a nutritionist from LA Biomed, Rochelle Bross. She's a culinary trained nutritionist. So we get patients and we just hands-on cooking on how to cook this stuff, make it. And then after a while, patients start teaching patients, right? But these are not common knowledge. You have to sit them down and help them understand it. And then, see, look at what 500 calories look like. This here is 500 calories. Would you be full if it's all oil? Look at cheese, it's 500 calories.
Guess so.
Meat, this is 500 calories too. This is 500 calories. This is 500 calories. And we all eat to be full. Do you see why this is important? I need to be full. That is the only time I'm eating. Fruits, even though we bind them together in practice, say we eat fruits and vegetables, I need you to understand that fruits are not equal to vegetables. They are very different. And you must help the patient understand the difference because they don't know. There was a time it was in LA Times, this school that was promoting ketchup as vegetable. No, seriously. Ketchup is not vegetable. You're going to tell these kids and they'll be squirting all this ketchup on their fries, thinking they're eating vegetable. How can a school do that to kids? Again, some people they say, "Oh, I don't drink sodas. I only drink fruit juice." Somehow, as if that fruit juice is kind of like more correct or exotic, classy, or some crap thing like that. I'm like, my friend, listen. If your goal is to control your calorie intake, I prefer that you eat the fruit, because at least when you eat the fruit, the skin is there. It doesn't have any calories, but it will take space, right? So fruits and fruit juices are not the same. When all these folks put all this stuff in cans, they had to put other things to preserve it. And those things are not going to preserve you. They're going to hurt you. They are not there for you. They're there for them to keep it longer on the shelf so they can have more time to sell it and make more money. Why do they have to be rich at your expense? Leave. Understand. Nobody cares about you but you. Don't expect FDA to be the one responsible for the health of your food. No, you have to know what you're eating. When we're hunters and gatherers, we didn't have FDA. You picked up the fruit, it looks bad, you dropped it and you went away. You didn't need the government to tell you you can't eat that. No, you knew what to eat and what not to eat. Why have all of a sudden we have become so helpless as a people, and we're still enslaved in our minds, and we are not free? Where we're supposed to exercise our freedom, we behave like we're still in chains. Because for truth, Bob Marley was right. Take the chain off your minds. You know, when he said emancipate yourself from mental slavery, that was not just word, that was real. There are still people walking around with invisible chains that need to be set free. And sometimes you have the keys to those chains. I need you to pay attention when you're dealing with people, because it's important. They're going to come to you looking like they're okay, but they carry some tremendous burdens you won't believe. All you have to do is just open your mouth and talk. But if you subject yourself to that stupid 10 minutes to 15 minutes per patient rule and let people deprive you of opportunity to really touch people's lives, then you would have lived like you never did. Your effort you might make money, you might live anywhere you want, you might drive the car you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to look back and you'll be like, so what did all this really mean? And you would have lived and wish you lived.
Quality.
So look at this, for instance. It's a glass of oranges compared to an orange. We're talking 110 calories. No fiber. Compared to 45 calories. 11 grams of carbs. 2.5 fibers. They're not the same thing, okay? And when you talk about fibers, I just want to take advantage of this to kind of tell you about the kind of fibers. You want soluble fibers. And this is what they look like, right? They are very good for you. They protect against gastritis, heartburn, and stuff like that. They will treat your constipation. You will not need Metamucil. And they are contained in fruits, vegetables, and stuff like that. And that is what insoluble fibers are. Fibers are important. And you don't get them from all these canned foods. Go back to the farmer's market, buy something dirty, wash it up and clean it. Don't buy that one in Ralph's that they spray wax on so it looks shiny. Apples are not supposed to be shining. They're apples, for Christ's sake. They're not toys. Do you need it to be shiny so you can eat it?
No.
Do you need other wax in you?
No.
Come on, man. But that is what we're dealing with here. We make life, we live so superficial. I mean, when I came into United States, in Los Angeles, I was so fascinated by the street lights. Every night at 1 o'clock, I did not even know how dangerous that was. I would come out in my boxers and my singlet, right? And I would be walking around, just admiring the light and the stars. How could a city be asleep and yet so bright? I was fascinated by that. And sometimes I would stroll to the ATM to get the money I need the next day. When I was telling my friends this story, I mean, you had been through some dark, you could have been killed. Nah, I didn't know. I did not know something could be so beautiful and so dangerous at the same time. That's America, the beautiful. You know what I mean? Pay attention. Look, there is no difference whether you drink this Coca-Cola or you drink this apple juice. Look at the calories. As a matter of fact, see the calorie in the apple juice is even more. For this person, it's better to drink the soda. But they will drink this apple with the impression that somehow they're drinking something better. Right? This is the reason for obesity. People don't know these things. And that is why I'm a good fan of, I'm sorry, I have to take his call. Hey, Imani. Fine, I'm in class. Is it, no, go ahead. Is it quick, something I can help you with now? All right, okay then, okay. No problem. Yeah, sorry, it's one of our new professors. So you see, this is why I kind of feel strongly that this idea of smoothies is really good. You know, smoothies are good for you, but you have to do it right. When you say you're making smoothies, and then you put banana, grapes, and apple, and then you put one stick of carrot, that is nonsense you're doing. When you're making smoothie, you should always maintain 2-to-1 ratio of vegetables and fruits. So when I make smoothie, for instance, I put celery, I put like maybe 4 sticks of celery, I might put like 6 dates, right? And I use coconut water, right? That is not the best one. But the best one is the one that you put maybe cucumber, celery, and dates, and then put coconut water. You should balance the fruits and vegetables in your smoothies. If you have more fruits in it than vegetables, then you're messing it up. Because the whole idea is for you to be filled and have less calorie on board. So it matters the composition. So when you're advising your, and many people have that blender called, that is called bullet now, right? They make it.
Yeah.
People have it now. And so you can, and it's not that expensive. It used to be very expensive when it first came out, like around $20. But now, and there was one agency that was actually giving it to people to help them lose weight and stuff like that. But giving it to people does not mean it will help them. They have to know how to use it. If they keep blending tomato, carrots, and dates, and I know dates are terribly sweet, right? But the good thing about dates is that one piece of date is like 15 calories. And if you use 10 dates, that's 150 calories. Put 10 dates with kale and maybe even cucumber, and you blend with just water, it will be so sweet. You know, my favorite is when I blend the bag of spinach with about 10 dates and 2 bananas. Believe you me, if I have you close your eyes and I put that thing in your mouth, you would think it's ice cream. You would think it's vanilla ice cream. It tastes exactly like ice cream. I call it green ice cream. You know, but it does help. You know, but you can imagine when you have patients together in a place and you're teaching this thing and you're doing it, everybody is doing different smoothies. That is how we want people to learn how to eat healthy at the Life Center, right? Make it fun. And then they walk away with new skills and knowledge that they can use at home to help them live. Because nobody else really cares, honestly. is solid at room temperature and the other is liquid at room temperature. But otherwise, there's no difference between fats and oil. Okay? But when you look at the composition, there is some important things that I want you to be aware of. Fats tend to be saturated, solid, and they're stable. They're usually of animal origin, but they can be of plant origin, like palm oil. Anybody knows what palm oil is?
Yeah.
Good. They stimulate the synthesis of bad cholesterol in the liver, and they put the heart at risk. Oil, they tend to be unsaturated. That is why they're liquid at room temperature. They tend to be liquid and they are unstable. Unstable means you can't leave them on the shelf for a long time. They go rancid very quickly. They are usually of plant origin, but can be of animal origin, like fish oil, right? They do not stimulate LDL production, and they actually protect against heart diseases, right? The difference between fats and oil has to do with the way the hydrocarbon chain in fats and oil look. You see, this is a fact. You see, it's fully saturated. That means it has all the hydrogen atoms it could have. So if you remember chemistry, right? When you have two carbon chains, right, that are linked by a single bond, all of this is hydrogen atoms, right? This is a fully saturated carbon chain, right? Now, if for any reason you have a double bond here, then you have to lose one of this, right? That is an unsaturated. That means it does not have the full complement of the hydrogen atoms. It turns out that this double bond matters tremendously. Oils have that double bond, and that double bond creates a kink in the molecular chain that you don't find in fat. And because of this kink in this molecular chain, it affects the way the fat is metabolized, recognized, used in the body, what it's used for, and what it does in the body. So, extremely important that you understand the molecular basis for the difference between fat and oil. And when you say a fat is saturated and it's unsaturated, you need to know what you really mean by that. Because if you know what you mean by that, then you can communicate that to your patients and help them understand what that really means. And there is something that is happening, and I'm surprised it's happening. Remember, one of the characteristics of oils is that they are less stable, right? They don't last long on the shelf. So what the food industry now do is they take the oil and they add hydrogen to it. They hydrogenate it. So basically, they take it from this unsaturated form, add hydrogen to it, and turn it into the fat. But only this time, it's not a natural fat, it's an artificial fat. So the partial hydrogenation of natural oils into artificial fat, known as trans fat. When you now form fat by this process, that fat is what is called trans fat. Okay? This trans fat, they tend to be more solid and stable. That could, when you hydrogenate natural fat into this trans fat, you prolong their shelf life and you add a weird flavor to them. Why are they prolonging shelf life? Because they want to make money. Why are they putting the flavor? Most of the time, the flavor is not even natural flavors, right? But see what it then does to you, the person that is eating it. It's not only, you remember the natural fat will stimulate LDL, and that's it. See what trans fat does. It stimulates LDL cholesterol synthesis, plus suppresses the HDL cholesterol. So it's doubly deadly. And this trans fat is in everything. In everything, man. Chips, cakes, pizza, it's in everything. Even when you know that potato that you buy and they say you just need to bake it, make your own fries? Yeah. It's better for you to go get fries from McDonald's than do that thing. Because it has this thing called shortening, right? Shortenings are trans fat. Okay? So now talk about fat. Let's talk about protein. Protein, you're going to have a class in nutrition, but this is just introduction. Proteins, two groups of proteins, you know. Just like you have fats and oil for lipids, for proteins you have two groups. There are complete proteins, there are incomplete proteins. What is the difference? Complete proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids. There are some amino acids that we as humans don't make. We have to take in from the environment. Those amino acids that we don't make and we have to ingest in food are called essential amino acids. Proteins that contain those essential amino acids are called complete proteins. Many, many times those proteins are of animal origin. Incomplete proteins, they lack some of the essential amino acids, right? What are those essential amino acids? Over here. Arginine, histidine, isoleucine, these are essential, these are non-essential. And somehow you can, the body has a way of interconverting them, because there are vegetarians that don't eat flesh, but they don't die because they don't have essential amino acids, because the body has a way of manufacturing it. This is how people should eat. Fruits, vegetables. Fruits. Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable? Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Tomato's a fruit.
Okay, thank you. Fruits and vegetables. Grains. Less grains and fruits and vegetables. Okay? Right? And all this, reduce it. Oil. Very little. Sweets. No. I come to class sometimes and you guys have this thing here and I'm looking at it. I'm like, they've been sitting all day and this is what they're eating.
We don't bring it. They always bring it to us.
Who brings it?
The OB teacher.
Who brings it?
Oh, but you gotta eat it.
Tell them to bring.
No, you guys don't sell sandwiches.
Tell them to bring carrots, grapes, things that will fill you up with water. You see, when you've been sitting all day, that is not when you're supposed to be eating chips. Your legs will swell. It has way more sodium in it than you need. Okay? Bring other stuff, berries, grapes, carrots, those baby carrots. Cut up some celeries. And you know when you don't need a dip for celery, all you need to do is take one celery and one olive together. It gives you the taste and it's natural. You don't need that ranch. That ranch thing is deadly stuff. Just take the celery with one olive. Try it. You will be surprised what you're waiting to discover in your mouth. I mean, I didn't know these things, but I started thinking about it and I started trying some things together, and I'm still getting surprised every day. Go home and try one celery, just a bite of it with one olive, and come tell me you've never tasted anything like that before.
What has been your best combination?
The green ice cream is one.
What was the green ice cream?
The green ice cream is spinach, about 10 dates, 2 bananas,
2 bananas, that's a lot.
I know it is, but it's so tasty. I'm like, you know. So I mean, and then you know one thing that is so bad in Africa. In Africa, you go to a family, right, and they're eating. They have the kids. They serve the kids with a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of rice, and they have this little meat on top of the one half of it, the wing of a chicken or something. They put it on there. Then you go to where the parents are eating, and then they have this full bowl of the meat, and then they have some little grains and stuff like that, farina and fufu like that. I'm like, y'all need to reverse this thing. The kids need to be the one eating all this meat. You need to be eating a hell of a lot more vegetables than that. So sometimes even the way people eat is culturally based. And you really need to kind of sit them down and help them understand that when your kids eat more meat than you, it does not mean they're going to get sick. Because some people think that you give kids too much protein, they're going to get sick. Or you're going to make them, you know, actually what I was told when I was talking to a group in Nigeria about this, they said, no, if you give kids too much meat, you turn them into thieves. I'm like, what do you mean? How do you turn kids into thieves? By giving them protein. How do they become thieves? They said, no, because they will blend their mouth to become sweet. I'm like, seriously, man. You know? One time I was in a pediatric clinic and this kid has malnutrition. And part of the recommendation to the woman was that they should give this kid 1 egg every day because the kid has malnutrition, kwashiorkor specifically. So the woman was bringing the kid to the clinic and would ask the woman, are you giving her the egg, 1 boiled egg every day? She said, oh yeah. And then she would bring this egg out. She said, this is the one she just, that is remaining from the one she ate. Also, okay, fine. But the kid is not getting better. So I was with the attending one day, and then the woman came in, and the kid was getting worse, getting more swollen because of protein deficiency. So the attending said the same thing again. Are you giving this kid this egg? He said, yes. Look, this is the one she just, and then he brought the same egg out. So the attending said, okay, fine, break that one now and give it to the kid. So she broke it and peeled it and gave it to the kid. You know what the kid said? Njabol. You know what Njabol means? I don't want to eat ball. Because the kid thought the egg was tennis ball. Table tennis. Because he had not seen that before. So this woman had been lying to us all this time. And then when I said, okay, fine, Mama, what is the reason that you're not doing? Do you want this kid to die? She said, no. That when she got home to the village and she told them what our recommendation was, that the villagers didn't think it was a good idea because it's going to turn the kid into a thief. He will get used to eating eggs and sweets, and then when he grows up, he will become a thief. What do you do with that? You know what we had to do? We had to admit the kid and then feed the kid, and in 6 weeks send the kid back, because there is no way we're going to fight against the village. We're not going to change the perspective in that village. Sometimes your patients are dealing with obstacles at home that you can't even see just because you don't have the frame to process it. You think that story is unique? No. There are so many villages and villages in Los Angeles. People still honor their communities. And so many things happening they can't share with you because, number one, they don't think you need to know. Number two, they've taken chances with some providers and you have no framework for processing that information. And what you end up doing is making fun of them or laughing at them, embarrassing and humiliating them. So they learn not to talk to providers anymore. And you're going to come to them with your white coat and they're going to just put you in a bin that they've already created in their mind where you belong. And that determines how they relate and interact with you until you prove to them that you're not one of those. I am a provider. extremely important. There are so many factors that interfere with people's health. Health is not about medication and eating healthy. You know what Mark Twain said? He said, the only way to stay healthy is to eat what you don't like. And a bunch of other stuff, but it made it look so bad because WHO says health is a resource for living, not the objective of it. We're not here to be healthy. We're here to live. Health is a resource for that life. We are not living just to be healthy. Right? If that is the goal, nobody will be left on this planet because this planet is not a healthy place. When you go to Pep Boys, don't read that sign. Say these premises contain chemicals known to the state of California to cause cancer. Do you stop taking your car there? You still take your car there every single time. So it's extremely important to just have these things in perspective so you can give people the right advice and be able to help them. And the food industry is not making your job any easier. They're making it difficult every single day. Even when food labels are accurate, many people can't interpret them. So somebody will take these chips or whatever, and they say, and they go here, they say, 250 calories. Oh, this is good. But that is supposed to be 2 servings, right? So 250 calories is not the calorie in the whole bag. It's only per serving. And if you're going to eat the whole bag, you need to multiply this calorie by that 2. Sometimes people take something that is a dozen servings and they take the calorie per serving and assume it's calorie for the whole bag. Sometimes teaching people how to read food labels is important. And it is not all the time that you have time to do that. But the beautiful thing is that there are so many patient resources that others are put together that will help you, right? To kind of set the stage right for patients to make the right decisions for themselves and stay healthy. Okay? Many, many times the labels are wrong. And I don't know why FDA allows it out there. 100% natural. If it is 100% natural, will it survive on the shelf? Healthy heart, or heart healthy. Honestly, is there any food you put in your mouth that make your heart healthy? But made with real fruit. Are there fake fruits? And what does that really mean? I told you about my patient. I think she's dead now. She was referred to me because every 2 weeks she was in the emergency room. I think I told you this story. Every 2 weeks she was in the emergency room for heart failure. So somebody referred her to me and said, go see Dr. Martins. So when she came to me, she came with her daughter, who was the paid caregiver for her. She's like in her late 70s, early 80s. I looked at her, I looked at the daughter, and I just asked one simple question. What did you have for dinner last night? She said, frozen beans. I said, which one? She said, the healthy choice. The healthy choice is a prepackaged food. They make the label green to convey this false impression that is somehow healthier than the non-green ones. Every single pack of those things contain about 4 to 10 grams of sodium. And this was what this woman was using her retirement check to buy and putting in the freezer. And her daughter, who was a paid caregiver, who is paid to take care of her, instead of going to buy the food and prepare it, was warming it and giving it to her mother. And every time she ate those things, she was salt loaded. has heart failure. She's salt loaded on such a regular basis that every 2 weeks her tank got full. And she ended up in the emergency room. And they would decongest her and send her home. And the same cycle every 2 weeks. Do you know that I did not do anything but told the daughter and the woman, when you get home tonight, take all those frozen food, throw it away, and you're paid to take care of your mother. You start cooking. If you don't start doing that, I'll cause social service on you and I'll make this neglect. Do you know that was the last time she was in the emergency room? It is sometimes as simple as that. You have to know when to be stern. You have to know when to be gentle. There are times you really need to stand up and speak up. And then portion distortion. I don't subscribe to this idea of portion distortion. Somehow it is believed that our portion sizes, they've increased over time. Yes, it is true. I don't necessarily believe that that is a bad thing. I think I can still eat the same portion, a bigger portion. What matters to me is not what the portion of the portion of food my patients are eating. No, it is what is in that portion. You understand what I'm saying? Because everybody eats until they're full. I'm not going to fault my patients for eating too much. That is not the problem. The problem is, what much are you eating? I know you want to eat to be full, but we can have you be full eating some different things and a lot less calories than what you're currently eating. So this idea of portion control. So everybody in the literature is talking portion control, portion control. Nutrition is portion control. Bad idea. What we need to be talking about is not portion control, but proportion control. Because I'm not going to go starve myself because I saw you and you're dwelling on my portion. Forget my portion. I eat the way I eat. Some people eat small meals every single time. There are some people that eat all day, but they eat little stuff. There are those that eat once a day, but that once a day is big deal, right? And there are those that are like clock, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I get sick the next day. Because I wasn't raised on breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I wasn't raised like that. When I was growing up, you got hungry, you ate. You better make sure you're home by 6 because dinner will be served. And if you miss it, you're done. You go and drink Gary. Right? Now, so even though you will see that people will talk to you about portion control, from what I've shared with you this morning, you understand why we shouldn't really be pushing portion control. It's not patient-friendly and attractive. Nobody likes anybody to limit their ability to eat. Everybody wants to eat. Look, I work so hard. I need to be able to eat. Eat what I want. Then you can help them modify what they eat to be full and less be healthy. But portion control is not what I think we need to be telling people. Okay? But that's what everybody else will tell you. I just needed to be able to put that information in context because we're working on changing it.
Take a break, Dr. Martin.
No.
Why do you say no?
I'm trying to do it right.
I'm zoning out.
Okay, oh, you're right. It's only 9:39. How many more slides do I have?
10.
Oh, still a lot? Like 10? You want to have a break now? Or you want me to just finish by... Okay, go. Go have a break. I'll wait. We'll come back in 6 minutes. I shouldn't tell you what is out there. So there is this hand guide to portion control, but I know for sure that people are beginning to realize now that portion control is not working. Okay? And I really think that we need to control not portion, but proportion. Don't control the volume of food that people eat. Control the composition of it. You know, we want them to eat more vegetables. So keep the portion the same, because that's what people are used to, right? Because we all have varying gastric capacities, right? Some people are very small stomach, some are very huge stomach. And people eat according to that gastric capacity. So you cannot subject everybody to the same portion. And even this hand guide, yeah, it's a good idea, but truthfully, my hand and Doyen's hand will not mean the same thing on this thing here. Right? Exactly. Exactly. Right? So, I mean, but the good thing is, your hand is good for you. Right? So you use your own hand to guide your own portion. If you believe in portion control. Because that's what we do. Now, remember I told you that if you can cause 500 calorie deficit a day, you will lose 1 pound a week. That sounds like a difficult thing to do. You won't believe how easy it is. Do you know how to cut calorie intake by 500 a day and lose 1 pound a week? Some people drink soda with every meal. If you just cut that out, that is 200 calories right there. Some people, they say they have this 3-course meal, right? Why don't we just eat and forget it? They go and get this appetizer, usually some fruit, something, and then they get the main course. Usually some protein, then they end up with this sweet. And some people are so used to this thing that they will undereat the main meal so they can make room for the dessert. Right? And usually you have this stuff. See, that little cookie thing you do there is 230 calories.
Oh, one cookie?
Or one. And sometimes you see kids, they'll pack 4. Right? There is a lot of difference between this rice and this rice. I'm not going to change my patient's portion. I want them to be full, but I can change their proportion. And there is a lot of different kind of rice that I don't know you know. There's Uncle Ben's rice, which is the worst kind of rice you can eat. There is jasmine rice, and there's basmati.
There's what?
Basmati.
One's good.
Yeah. Jasmine contains 1/3 of the calories in Uncle Ben's. You know, but who would tell them this? You. There is a lot of difference. Even this, we all call it rice. Different kind of rice. Every scoop of white rice you replace with a scoop of broccoli, cut down 200 calories in your diet. But what are we pushing? We push gym membership and all these crazy other ideas. That is not what patients really need, man. And then look at exercise, right? We've turned it into a routine. You have to go to the gym. No, I don't have to go to the gym. All I need to do is just find something fun and do it. You know, I used to play badminton with my Korean neighbors. You know, I don't even know who are the longest living people in the world.
Okinawa.
Chinese, right?
Okinawa, Japan.
Okinawa, Japanese, yeah. Do you think it's their gene, or you think it's their lifestyle, or both?
Combo.
Yes, it's both. Every time I wake up and do my work in Koreatown, I see this Asian male and female, young and old. They carry their badminton racket and it's like clockwork. They go play badminton and they talk. They are not going to the gym. It's the communal living. It's a regular activity. Even when you don't feel like going, when you remember who you're going to be with there, you go. It's not the same thing. Look, the idea of life is different when you compare it from the East and the West. You cannot go into the community and start promoting these Western ideas as if that is all there is. There are equally valid Eastern alternatives to life. Life is not about food and sex all the time. There are other values that are important in life. Don't promote one lifestyle as if that is all there is to it. Keep your mind open. Look at your patient. Pitch the health information within the right context for that patient. One woman went home after she's been in America for a long time. And she went to Lagos, which is the city, right? And then she decided to go to the village. And then when she got to the village about a week after, she realized she was gaining some weight.
Happy weight.
And then one morning she decided to wear a tracksuit. She's a woman. Wore tracksuit and this top slim thing. I was running in the streets. All the villagers came out, young and old, and they were looking at her. And she didn't know why they were looking at her. Because that is not what you're supposed to do in the village as a woman. Wear tracksuit, tight suit, top, and then start running in the street. That is not the idea of exercise in that environment, right? Mm-hmm. But do you know that her family was so humiliated that they told her not to come home again if she cannot stop doing, she can never do this again. Am I telling you this? I'm telling you this story for you to understand the importance and power of culture.
Lagos.
Culture is powerful and you can't defeat it. You have to learn to work with it. That is why community engagement and cultural competence are important. I don't like the idea of cultural competence because you're never going to be competent in another person's culture, but at least you can be sensitive to it so you can work your way around it. Your goal is not to change people's culture. Your goal is to help them live and be the best they can be within their own culture. See, and that is extremely important. Exercise, we've done it into something that has to be formal and official. No, I don't tell my patients to exercise. I ask them, do you play any kind of sport? Anything you like. Basketball, badminton, tennis. What do you do? What do you like to do? You like to talk? Then maybe you guys need to walk, take a walk with yourselves, you and your wife, in the morning. Do it 30 minutes. That is exercise. You don't need to go to the gym. You can exercise all by yourself. Right? And it doesn't have to be in a gym. It could be indoors. Because there are some places you can't even take a walk in the street early in the morning. Somebody will rob you, rape you, or kill you. Right? So, I mean, there are so many things that interfere with the ability to exercise, even though it's beneficial. Just because people don't live in safe neighborhoods does not mean they can't exercise. There are so many indoor alternatives that you need to explore. Right? There was a time I did one research on obesity where we gave people ropes and hooks and stuff like that. We call it gym in the back. Because that thing has everything you need to get a full workout in a room with a door. All you need is a door. And you can do a lot. You know. So these are the kind of things I don't want you to be closed-minded and have tunnel vision and think it can only be done one way. No, when you're dealing with racial, ethnic, minority populations, it's a mixed bag. Even when people look exactly the same, there are tremendous differences between them. And a good example is the black male. You can't take him for granted. could be African American, it could be African, it could be Australian, it could be British, it could be Brazilian, it could be Chinese. He's a black male. He's going to come to you looking exactly the same, but they are not the same people. Sometimes you have to, they are the only ones like that. You have to pay attention because, and more other races are becoming like that because of intermarriage and all this other stuff like we're having, especially in America, right? So don't be presumptuous. Don't presume you know anything. Talk to people. Try to understand where they've been, where they're coming from, where are they headed. Some people want to come see you not because they want to get healthy, but they want to qualify for some benefit. I told one man one time that your HIV test is positive, and he went like that. I'm like, why? He said, because now I can get housing and I can get some checks. I'm like, man, housing? You're HIV positive, man. Housing? But that is reality, right? So his goal to see me is not to get healthy, it's to get housing. I agree with him because I know I will never get through to him on his health unless I put him in a house. Have you heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Look it up. People don't care about their health until they have home, shelter, and food. Okay? Extremely important. So then see all these exercises and what you can do with them. You don't need all that. What is interesting is that some people, they get out and they exercise and then they come back home. Say, wow, I got hot. And then they go in the refrigerator and they pick a can of soda. Well, you know what? You just replace all the calories you just burned. You're never going to lose weight like that. Right? Because you go out there and you jog for 15 minutes on the cycle, and then you come back home and you put one Sunkist can in your body, or even a glass of orange juice, you think it was healthier. You just added 100 calories. You're not creating a deficit. The idea is to create calorie deficit. So you have to pay attention. You really have to count calories. And then people want to give people medication to lose weight. Again, one of those things I don't like. I've never given anybody medicine to lose weight in my life. I just don't think it is the right thing to do. Unless you have a medical reason for it, and there isn't in my book. But there are pharmaceutical companies out there that will sell medications, all this stuff, and patients will ask you for it. When patients ask me for it, I don't outrightly deny them. I tell them, okay, fine. I will give it to you if lifestyle changes fails. And many, many times, lifestyle changes works, and we never did it. So I don't say, no, I don't believe in that, but that's not how I practice. Okay? I agree with you. You may or may not need it. Let's try lifestyle first. If lifestyle fails, then I'll give it to you. And then many, many times, lifestyle doesn't fail. It's easier to live with lifestyle than to live with medications. And now, they have all kind of devices, gastric pacemakers, that stimulate the stomach, the nerves in the stomach, and convey the false impression of fullness. Do you really think that is how people ought to live? You are so weak as a human being now that you don't have control over what you eat and how you eat. Is that how you think humans are supposed to be? Humans are the crown of creation. We are the most advanced species on the planet. And what makes us advanced is not our body, it's our mind. But you reduce us now to these things that need all these stupid gadgets to do what we've always done. No, it's not the way to live. Okay? And then biggest block, interfering with your nervous conduction. Why? I put it there with all the information you need, just for you to know these devices still exist. There are people that push them. They're not pushing them for their health benefit. They're pushing them for economics, just so they can make money. Many of your patients won't be able to afford it. But if you as a provider have the wrong mindset that people really need this, then you would think that your patient don't have access to something valuable and you will learn to be helpless. That is not true. Don't let that happen to you. Understand these things, put them in the right place in your mind, and let them not be a barrier to you to explore alternatives for your patients. Because most of your patients will not be able to afford this. Look at this one. Aspire Assist Aid Tube Gastric Drainage. You've heard about anorexia nervosa? This is basically what we're doing. You eat, and after you eat, you now suck it back out. What mess is that? But somebody is paying for this.
Couldn't you too?
Let me ask you, is it me? Am I being overreactive? Is this really what, do you think our fathers in medicine, this was what they thought we'd be doing? No. This wasn't what they had in mind. They wanted us to help people be the best they can be, not turn them into robots that don't have minds and just want to submit to their own biological primitive instincts. That is not what we had in mind for medicine. But this is what it is now. Look at all these endoscopic barriers. So we have like this aluminum foil, remote, now put here to line the gut inside from within, so the food is not absorbed. Can you stop eating, please? Why do I need to block your intestine? Come on, man. Use your mind. What is it? Go get chewing stick if you can't stop chewing. Honestly, I get really pissed. Look, one of my patients pushed me so hard, I referred her to weight loss clinic, and they ended up doing this gastric bypass. You know what happened to her? She was a big, beautiful woman. By the time they were done with her, she was slim. When you look at her, she looks really slim and firm. When you hug her, you feel her within her. She has so much excess skin that when you hug her, where are you, baby? You know?
I'm dead, yo.
It is so bad. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. This is not living. It has become something else. We are not animals, we are humans. The most powerful species on the planet. And what makes us human is not our bodies, it's our mind. All these devices weaken us. And I want you to understand them, put them in the right perspective. See, put a band here to create a stomach pouch so your food can go down, so you feel full. And then they say it's temporary. And then somebody put a balloon. Inflated balloon.
I should have thought of that.
Why? Instead of putting inflated balloon, why don't you train the patients to consume a lot more kale and spinach and a natural balloon that not only fill them, but also keeps them healthy? Why put a balloon here? Why? What's the point? Then it gets even worse. Look at all this bariatric surgery. You know, in GI, you did the side effects of all this bariatric surgery. B12 deficiency, gallstone diseases and all that stuff, from all this stuff. Don't get me wrong, there are times you need this. Right? I have a patient right now, she's 36 years old. She's very big. and then something happens to her hip, and they needed to do a hip replacement, and the orthopedic doctor will not touch her unless she loses weight. And there is, if she had to lose that weight naturally, it will take her forever, and that hip is getting worse. I don't want her to go disabled at 36. She's not even married yet, right? So I had to agree that, this is one time that we need to do this. Let's do it very quickly and get it over with. And they gave her the gastric sleeve, and she's lost about 40 pounds in the last 2 months. Right? And I think she just went for the surgical evaluation last week. I mean, it has its place, don't get me wrong, but we cannot make it
cosmetic.
Like, how do you say it? Like a carte blanche for everybody. Say, oh, you can't lose weight, we'll do bariatric surgery. What is wrong with you? That is not how it's supposed to be. Okay? And then look at all the complications we put people through. Bowel obstruction, deep vein thrombosis, GI, anastomosis strictures, all this crazy stuff. You all know we talk about enterohepatic circulation in pharmacology. You remember how when you mess with terminal ionium, you interfere with bile salt reabsorption. And when you lose bile salt, then bile begins to concretize and then you get gallstones, right? You remember that? Yeah. These are all bad things that we really shouldn't be dealing with. Okay. So this is supposed to be endocrine class. And obesity has become an endocrine problem. Right? When I was in medical school, nobody would have believed if you had to say that obesity will become an endocrine problem. Obesity is now an endocrine disease because we have come to know that adipose tissue is not just a dormant, inactive tissue. It is really an endocrine organ, and it secretes tremendous amount of stuff: leptin, adiponectin, angiotensin, and all these cytokines. Okay? So now, I'm giving you all the information you need to truly engage patients that may be overweight or obese. You know when to worry, you know how to know when to worry, and you know exactly what the approach should be. Obesity is a problem. It is rooted in culture and practice. And it's not one size fits all. You have to talk to the patient, understand what the issues are, so you can deal with the issues. Because if you don't deal with the issues, you're not going to solve any problem. If you keep giving somebody medication for a cream for eczema when they have leprosy, what happens? They will die of leprosy on eczema medication. Okay, so it's really important that you get that. Any question, comment, concerns? There is so many recipes out there. Some of them are really good, some of them are lousy, but at the end of the day, patients make their own.
No, we need a fundraiser idea so we can sell recipes.
There'll be a picture of you in the front.
Yeah.
King. With the king. The king going like this.
Smoothie
The only
king.
thing I enjoy the most is my liberty and independence. I want to be able to come and go unnoticed. You need that. It's what they called me the other day. We're doing a video on gerrymandering, and Mr. Watkins said I should talk to you. I'm like, not me. It's not me. You want to talk to those that are in the trenches. I'm on the sideline watching this thing. But I think it's a good idea. People have written books, there are all kind of recipes out there. But the greatest fun of it is when you create new recipes, and you test the impact. I mean, that is the reason I really believe that you guys are not going to do poster presentation. You're going to do real research. You're going to have opportunity to address a real issue, find a real solution, and test the impact. And we'll begin to gather your work over time. Because if you're going to be healthcare providers, you need to know do a hell of a lot more than write prescriptions. You need to know a lot more. You need to learn cultures, especially if you're going to be practicing in different communities. You need to know about those communities. You need to know about those cultures. Because sometimes you don't need to change the culture. Let me tell you a story of one African in East Africa. There was this physician, was a Catholic priest, and the Catholic went and they opened this clinic there. And the villagers, they will go to the Catholic clinic for everything. But whenever they have diarrhea, they don't go to the Catholic clinic. They go and they lie down in the sun at the foot of this rock and they will be licking the rock. They go to the clinic for everything else. But when they have diarrhea, they don't go to the clinic, they go and they lie in the sun. At first, the physician, a German physician, thought that they were worshipping the rock, and this is one of those superstitions in the village. Then one day he asked one of the villagers, why do you come to me when you have everything else, but whenever you have diarrhea, you go to the rock? He said, because the rock works better. So the rock works better? So what do you do then? So we lick the rock. I said, really? So when the guy was going back to Germany on vacation, he went and took samples of the rock. And guess what? Calcium carbonate. They didn't know what the heck was in the rock, but they knew that when they licked it, the diarrhea stopped. So he now went and took it back home. And then he left it alone. But you know what somebody will do today? What somebody will do today is to take the rock, come there, take the rock, destroy it, take it back to Germany, package it now into capsule, right? And come and sell it to the villagers. Which is what they've done. When the British discovered oil in Nigeria, they pumped the crude oil from Nigeria, shipped it to England, returned it to Nigeria, British Petroleum. Hello, you got it from here. Right? It is happening. Did Trump's father had a visa to come into America? Did the Indians agree? But now we are putting a barrier there, right? And we're killing people, including children, because our country is full. Hello? Whose country? Really? All these ICE agents, all of their grandfathers, let them bring a document where the Indians approved for them to be here. I mean, we can have these philosophical debates, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives here. That kid that died in that camp in Texas was 1 year old. Should she have died because her mother took her somewhere? Is that how you think this planet is supposed to work? I mean, you just have to look at these things the right way. Sometimes right is not necessarily right. There are times you choose to lose battles so you can win wars. People should not die because they're poor. No. We have failed as humans if that happens. People should not die because they're sick and they can't afford medications. It shouldn't be like that. If there is a cure for this condition, everybody should have access to it. People should not die because they are one color. People should not die because they are one race. Listen, the reason Hitler thought that it was okay to exterminate the Jews was because somehow he felt they were not fully human. Somehow the Germans were better. They were human beings. Every human being bleeds red. They have soul, spirit, and body. The German soul is no more precious than the Jewish soul. African souls are not less valuable than white souls. These are humans. And we're all in this together. This globe is shrinking so fast. All these territories we put boundaries among ourselves is fake and false body. Let me give you a good example. There was a time we had this grant that pays for sexually disease transmission is for citizens alone. Okay, I had a couple. The woman tested positive for chlamydia. She said this is in her husband is not. What am I supposed to do? Keep treating the woman and let the husband alone because he's uninsured? She will keep getting infected from him. Is that how you think it works? I mean, only when you are ignorant, you don't even understand what life is about, and especially life in these communities, would you make these kind of policies? If you really understand, you won't make these kind of policies. You won't. You know, at the end of the day, you as healthcare providers are going to deal with this stupidity. And you have to understand that you can't afford to be helpless. People are counting on you. You have to look for ways to help people get what they need, whatever it takes. You know, Robin Hood. Sometimes you have to be Robin Hoods. Let's do some questions. So, let's mark these calories with this. 0 calorie. 4. 7. 9. Negative calorie balance. Which of the following nutritional deficiencies is most likely to complicate Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery for weight loss? Say it loud. B12, right? Because vitamin A, my goodness, you carry vitamin A store for almost A, D, E, and K, you rarely run out of. You store them. B12, because you can reabsorb it, right? What amount of weight loss can be expected with a daily deficit of 500?
1 pound.
Which of the following is not involved in the pathophysiology of insulin resistance in patients with metabolic syndrome? None of the above. Everything is involved, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
According to National Cholesterol Education Program, ATP3 guidelines, the diagnosis of metabolic syndrome can be based on which of the following clinical parameters out of the above, okay? Which of the following bariatric surgery is most likely to be complicated by fat malabsorption?
Sleep.
Roux-en-Y. Why will vertical slit gastrectomy give you fat malabsorption? It doesn't. It reduces your stomach size, right? Adjustable gastric band. Yeah. So it's Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, right? You got that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which of the following anthropometric parameters is the best predictor of cardiovascular morbidity and mortality in obese patients? The best predictor. C, abdominal circumference. Yes. Not you can have good body mass index, or you have adipose in your gut. You know, that's not good. You can have the best waist to hip ratio, but you okay. So it's abdominal circumference. That's the best one. Okay. Which of the following endocrine disorders is most likely to be associated with excessive weight gain? Why am I talking about this? Excessive weight gain. Yeah, which one? Which one is most likely to be associated with excessive weight gain? Diabetes will give you weight gain.
No.
Hashimoto's not the same.
Hashimoto will give you weight gain.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, because. Yep.
Weight gain. Which one?
Oh, growth hormone too. Growth hormone too, because growth hormone you're getting bigger. You never said fat.
It's Hashimoto thyroiditis. So let's look at it one by one. Weight gain will cause diabetes. Diabetes does not cause weight gain. Syndrome of inappropriate age exhibition, you'll be bloated, but not weight. Growth hormone excess.
Water weight.
Bone.
Hey.
Bone, right? And
Bones
also-
weight. Bones on weight.
Yeah, but it's bone weight and your baseline metabolic rate will be higher. You're not going to gain fat.
Yeah, but the question says weight gain.
No, it says excessive weight gain.
Excessive weight gain.
Yeah, that's part of your weight.
I should put fat weight gain.
Yeah.
Okay. Which of the following findings on lipid profile is characteristic of dyslipidemia of metabolic syndrome? High triglyceride, right?